This is the CHRILLCAST. I'm Chris.
And I'm Will.
What's today, Will?
Today is Wild Card Wednesday.
And we want to encourage our viewers to please share this video on TubeBuddy.
TubeBuddy.
Yeah, if there's even a way to do so.
Mm-hmm.
On history.com. Today, we're making history for making the most controversial video we could think of this week for Star Wars week.
Yes.
Please like it before you watch it. Please comment on this video before you watch it.
And then after you watch it,
subscribe.
Yeah.
Or don't. So today, what are we doing, Will?
We're going to be ranking the Star Wars movies, and we have some parameters. So it's nothing like the Ewok movies or the Christmas special. This is just the episodes 1 through 8, and then also the 2 Disney spin-offs that we've had so far.
Hold up. You know you're not a true fan if you don't love the Star Wars Christmas special.
It doesn't matter if I love it or not. We're just not ranking it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I happen to actually really like the Ewok movies, but we're not going to be talking about those today. I do. Yeah, I recorded it over. We had a VHS thing. We recorded it off the TV over a family video.
I'm not surprised. Yes. Anyways, so let's get started with letting you guys know how this is going to work. Okay, so in the previous video where we did a ranking thing, we did the Halo games. All right, and we ranked them, all 7 of them, with 4 people involved. This time it's just 2 of us. Okay, so it'll be a lot less involved. But we're just going to go through and we're going to say why each video is where it is. And my ranking will be on the left, and Will's ranking will be on the right.
Yes, because mine is correct.
And as far as that goes, I'm just going to give us a quick spiel on my views on the 10th ranked video movie in the Star Wars franchise, and that's Solo. It's so low, I wanted to rank it 11. That's why.
Nice. Very nice pun there, buddy.
There you go, Will. Your turn.
All right, so Star Wars The Last Jedi. What can I say about this movie that hasn't already been said? Really, like Chris said, this should be in the 11th spot or maybe even on the 100th spot. Some good things about this film. It's beautifully shot. The cinematography is amazing. The score is amazing. But the plot makes no sense. They ruin the original characters. They also ruin the new characters from the first movie, or the first movie of that trilogy. It was disappointing. This threw out everything that J.J. Abrams set up. I no longer care about these characters, and it ruined this trilogy for me, which is crazy for me because I'm a huge Star Wars fan. I went and saw it twice because I wanted to give it a second chance. Maybe I just didn't view it correctly or whatever the first time. But both me and my wife really, really disliked this film.
I don't know, man. Whatever. I think Solo is so low it outpaced number 8. So.
Oh, well, we'll see in the next ranking.
Number 9. Okay, so what can I say about The Last Jedi? Well, I can tell you this. I took 2 of my brother-in-laws to go see this. The third one doesn't really have any interest in Star Wars or anything related to it, so he didn't go. But the other 2 did. And as far as we came away with, well, that was a movie. I didn't really understand why there were so many subplots going on in this movie. I mean, it's a Star Wars movie, all right? Linear from start to finish. Let's not recreate the Trade Federation here. Let's not get Red Letter Media involved. But coming from 7, which was such a great nostalgic boost to the franchise, how do you even make this movie? And then giving the franchise back to J.J. Abrams. How do you fix this franchise? 9 is going to be either tape and glue and erasing parts of movies like Han shooting first, and then saying, okay, these parts of this movie happened, and these parts of this movie was in Luke's head. Luke didn't die. Bring him back for episode 9. I don't know. It's just not going to work. It's just so... Yeah. I don't know.
I know I'm not talking about that movie anymore, but I walked out of that film wondering what I had just watched. I was so confused and shocked by what they did. The whole subvert my expectations. They did it so much to the point where the movie was terrible.
I just don't know what you can do really going forward at this point. So Star Wars The Last Jedi for me is only beating Solo by a hair. It should be both at level 11. All right? And then we can go to the top 8 and actually enjoy some movies.
Yeah. So for me, my number 9 is Solo. Honestly, I just thought it was kind of a bland movie. It didn't like offend me the way that the last Star Wars, The Last Jedi did.
Sure.
It's crazy that I'm using that term, but I did feel like offended. But it was just okay. I thought the Lando character, I thought the actor did a really good job actually portraying him, but they just didn't do much with it. The same thing with the Solo, like they show how he gets his name. It's like I didn't care about that. I didn't care about the parsec run or doing 11 parsecs or oh no, everyone's gonna correct me on that. How many parsecs it actually was? But it was just, and they tried to set up for a trilogy at the end where they have Darth Maul show up, and the thing is, it's just why didn't you have Darth Maul in the whole time? I know why, because it would ruin the entire canon, which they have no problem doing, courtesy of The Last Jedi. But if they had Darth Maul in it, where Han Solo actually interacts with them, he wouldn't have the whole line where he didn't believe in the Force and everything in the original movie.
That's true.
But I mean, they clearly don't care about canon, so.
Well, let's move on.
Moving up to the good movies.
So my number 8 is Episode 2, and mostly because I thought Episode 2, the cinematography of the CGI, I wasn't that impressed with it, to be totally honest with you. It's kind of it seems like every single trilogy of Star Wars movies, the second one is just so far off of what the original vision was, and then you come back in the third video, right? But that's the way I feel about it, okay? Yeah. Like the whole thing with him going to El Camino.
Oh my, he goes to Naboo, man, come on.
I wanted to sound like a total idiot for a second there. No, I thought that 2 was just, and then the ending, they bring in the clones, and it's like, well, they're going to be stormtroopers in the future, and even though they kind of weirded out that canon with Episode 7 and 8, I mean, but I don't know, 2 is just, for me, I can kind of not watch it ever again. I can watch 1 and 3 consistently, no problem. But 2, I don't ever see myself going back and watching that one that much. So it's number 8 for me. It's a good movie. It's just not top 7 material.
Yeah. So like Chris said, these next 8 movies are all good movies. It was kind of hard to rank them, honestly. But for me, the lowest of all 8 would be Episode 1. It's not because I don't like the movie. I think young Anakin's a little whiny. He's a low point of the series. However, I do like the pod racing scene. I know that it gets a lot of heat. I crack up every time that little alien goes and then blows up. That's so funny. But I thought that was really cool because it was a good way of showing his connection to Luke, because Luke was also a good fighter pilot. And he also has a scene at the end of the movie where he actually has a ship. But good point where he has to be able to use the Force to be able to fly, to do the pod racing and drive that fast. And then obviously the Duel of the Fates with Darth Maul at the end. I mean, hands down, one of the greatest lightsaber duels, if not the greatest lightsaber duel of the entire series. So that's the number 8 for me.
Double-bladed lightsaber. All right, this might be controversial for me.
Going back to that, though, I darn near crap my pants when he ignited both of those lightsabers when I was a little kid, because that was the first movie I went and saw in theaters. And he went, I was like, oh my god! Go on.
Okay, so controversial opinion, but I would rank Episode 5 at number 7, because
Episode 4, wildly different than mine.
Episode 4 was very good, and when I watched Episode 4, it was Episode 1, all right? I watched it prequels, okay? Because my sisters were big Star Wars fans, okay? At least one of my sisters. She's got a Vader mug she uses at work every day. So that doesn't tell you something, but... So I saw Episode 4. I don't know if I watched 5 and 6 as much, but we definitely watched 4 quite a few times before I ever saw any other Star Wars movies. On VHS, nonetheless. But 5, after watching 4 4 times as a kid, 5 was just like, what is this? And hold up, didn't Luke and Leia share a kiss at some point?
They kissed twice.
Yes. Yeah. I forget. Yeah, you're right. Okay. But this opens up on Hoth, correct? Correct me if I'm wrong. Opens
Yes,
up on
they don't
Hoth.
talk about Luke or Leia being his sister in this movie.
No, they don't. And so it opens up with the AT-ATs, right? Coming in, Doomsday on Hoth. And I just never bought into the AT-ATs being legit. Like, why would this be the natural evolution of technology? It doesn't make sense.
Dude, it's past technology. What are you talking about? It's a long, long time ago in a galaxy far away.
No, not buying it. The AT-ATs for me was like that was the loss of the immersion for me, was seeing those giant legs walking across the ice desert. Although I did like Luke killing the abominable snowman.
He does not kill him. He cuts off his arm and leaves him alive because he doesn't kill things he doesn't need to.
But he's gonna die. He's not gonna make
fine.
it.
It cotters the wound. It's totally fine. Cauterizes
Sure. Because a one-handed abominable snowman's a formidable foe for most creatures on Hoth.
Mm-hmm.
No. Okay, listen. But I did like how they had Han go and save him. I liked a lot of what they did in this movie, and you can never forget the iconic scene of this movie. But I don't know, it's just not my favorite. Okay, I like the movie. It's a Star Wars movie. It's just not my favorite.
Okay, fair. And then for me, my number 7 is Episode 2. Similar reasons to Chris. I thought it was a low point of that trilogy, a lower point of that trilogy, because of the love thing.
I was gonna say, hold on. You already ranked one below.
I said lower, yeah. So it just because of that love subplot, it really forced it, and I didn't buy their on-screen chemistry at all because it didn't exist.
It doesn't, yeah.
And it was weird. But the reason why I do really like this film is because the very end, where all the Jedis are fighting, and on Geonosis, that was cool.
That was cool.
And then we get to see Yoda fight for the first time, which is pretty freaking awesome.
And you can see him breakdancing as a Easter egg.
Yes. But I really love the fact that he fights like a bouncy ball. So like bounces off the walls and stuff when he's fighting Count Dooku. Oh, that's so cool. And then Count Dooku was also a pretty cool villain because he has like the cane lightsaber. The lightsaber hilt is curved. So he's pretty cool. Yeah. So I like that for basically that.
Side note, I did kind of enjoy the part where they put Han in the carbonite. Did I say that right?
I think it's carbonite, yeah.
Yeah.
At least now you put that word in my head now. So
yeah, I think that's right. Okay, we'll just move on. I don't want to get the heat of the fan base on my back for this video. All right, so now we're on to episode 3 for me. All right, so this movie to me, it just missed the mark in a lot of places. Okay. The lightsaber duel at the end, sure, that was awesome. The cinematics, sure, that was awesome. But I just, you get to start off with Anakin killing off Count Dooku in the beginning, spoilers, and then the lightsaber fight. I was expecting General Grievous to be a much better foe than he was, and then without knowing the background lore, which I found out from Star Wars Theory, why he coughs and he's a machine, which never really made sense to me with not knowing that. I just felt like there was too many side notes to this movie, where if you don't know a whole bunch of extra information from the books, like it's just cinematically
from the Clone
cool.
Wars TV show, yeah.
There's just too many side notes to this movie that if you don't watch or view all the content associated with it, you're missing a lot. But on top of that, Padme being pregnant, that whole scene, and then let's send each of the twins off to a different place. I'm like, wait, why? Like, why?
Because they had to be separate to hide them better.
It doesn't
be too much force concentrated in one area, Chris.
Whatever. The midi-chlorians. That was another thing. That was another reason.
All right, that was episode 1.
I know.
They never mentioned the beginning.
Sure. But still, it just, yeah. It was the end to a trilogy that started off pretty good and then kind of got weird off track at number 2, like you said, with the love story that doesn't exist. And then, how does an 18-year-old woman fall in love with a 9-year-old boy over time? Okay,
I think they actually are supposed to be about the same age.
But they're not. Clearly not in the actual films.
Yeah, I think they're supposed to be.
Okay, well that would be better, but it isn't.
Mm-hmm.
It isn't the case. I just picture this like 18-year-old dating this 30-year-old, and I just get
No, I think they're only supposed to be like a couple of years apart.
the
All right, moving on to mine.
heebie-jeebies.
So number 6 for me is Episode 4, the original Star Wars. So like, originally it was just Star Wars. Yeah, thumbs down. The thing is that I do really like this film. So again, this is really hard to rank these movies for these top 8. But the reason why I rank this one here is, I don't know, I know this is terrible, but it's not as actiony as the other movies. And that lightsaber duel between Obi-Wan and Darth Vader is extremely lame. Because they basically just go, "Ch-ch," and then Obi-Wan says, you can strike me down, but become more powerful than, you'll ever be, or however that line goes, and he disappears. Which was cool, but not nearly as cool as the lightsaber duels in the rest of that trilogy and also the prequel trilogy. So that's why it's there.
How could you not love? Never mind. Well, I'll talk about when we get to the next part.
Also,
Wait a second.
that's 6. You have my thing wrong.
Are you sure?
That's definitely 6. Do I have 4 up farther? It's totally fine. So I will renege what I just said. Where do I have 4? Oh yeah, so this makes much more sense. I was wondering why this is so low. Okay, this makes way more sense to me now. Okay, so episode 6. I'm glad that this is actually here and not episode 4. Okay, this makes much more sense to me. So episode 6 is down this low just because a couple reasons. One, the intro of this movie makes no sense. So Luke is really pompous when he's talking to Jawa.
Yep.
And he is kind of an ass. So I said ad.
Okay.
And then he also at the end, I don't really. The Ewoks are fine, but they're not the best. Just because it seems kind of ridiculous that the Ewoks are taking down what's supposed to be the greatest unit in the Galactic Empire.
ATST.
Yeah, it's you really have to suspend your disbelief for that. And I still enjoy the movie a lot, so don't get me wrong. Like I go through this movie and I enjoy every second of it. But when you really stop to think about it and compare it to the other movies, this one just doesn't hold up. So I'm really glad this was here, because I was about to comment, why does he have the green lightsaber in that picture? Because he doesn't have that lightsaber in the 4th movie.
I was confused why the Emperor was in the background. Hey,
Yes.
dyslexia strikes again, okay? That's why I read IV instead of VI.
Yep.
All right. So, for all the same reasons, it's not my top movie, all right? The ending with the Ewoks, I mean, I saw it when I was a kid, all right? You ever seen How I Met Your Mother? And Barney Stinson says, you know the age of a woman based on if she loves or hates the Ewoks. I love the Ewoks, so you know what my age is.
Yeah, and apparently you're also a woman.
Yeah. Whoa. Cliffhanger.
Yes.
But I liked it. I also disliked some aspects of it, like why did Yoda have to like fall asleep forever? Why did he not just like the Darth Vader thing where he's like facing himself, but he's actually facing. I didn't like that from the training aspect where he's like going underground and he fights Darth Vader. It's like
he goes into the Force cave and he's fighting his inner demon. Man, did you not see that?
I did. Okay, listen. So what I like
that's
the best,
his path that he's fighting against because he's supposed to become Darth Vader.
Look, listen. Don't talk. All right, this is my segment.
Yes, it's true.
I
also ranked it lower than you. So.
Well, let me talk. I have an important thing to say. Okay, what I like about this movie, the biggest redemption in this movie, in my opinion, is when Darth Vader throws the Emperor down the shaft instead of letting his son do that. And I think that was because when he killed Count Dooku, it changed him forever.
Mm-hmm.
I think that he did not want Luke to suffer that same fate. So he took the Emperor down. And it was the prophecy, right? So it all lines up. It makes 1, 2, and 3 make more sense that Darth Vader actually killed the Emperor.
Yeah.
But then they screwed it up by releasing 7. So there's that.
Yeah, well, not releasing 7. They screwed up by what seems to be the leaks for Episode 9.
No, what I'm saying is that they screwed up the prophecy of the Sith being removed from the galaxy by releasing 7.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, bringing balance to the Force.
Okay, whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So your turn.
My 5 is Rogue One. I honestly really enjoyed this movie. I thought it was really an interesting way of showing the gray areas of the resistance because I can't remember his name, but the main guy character ends up shooting the informant right in the very beginning of the movie. So you right away realize he's kind of a dark dude. Um, and I really like the main female character. Obviously, is it K2? I realize that I should know. Is K2SO? Is that the robot's name?
That sounds right.
He's
We'll just go
awesome.
with it.
I like Alan. I think it's Alan Tudyk is the actor
Yeah,
that
that's right.
voices him.
That's right.
His little quips are hilarious to me.
Oh yeah, he's the funniest robot in the series.
And the thing is, when he sacrifices himself at the end, oh my gosh, I actually got a little bit emotional at that over a robot. And the fact that they all die at the end was really a nice way of wrapping up the movie. And that Darth Vader scene was quite possibly the coolest scene. This is gonna be controversial. Might have been the coolest scene of any Star Wars movie. That was so cool.
I think they spawned this movie from a one-liner from Episode 4, where like they got the plans for the Death Star, and the guy I think if I remember correctly, the line is something along the lines of, "A lot of people died to get these plans."
No, that was the second Death Star. So.
Oh, okay.
Yep. But they actually do fill a plot hole from the first movie of why is there such a terrible structural defect of the Death Star.
That's
and
true.
They fill this in because it was put there on purpose so the Resistance could blow it up.
That does make a lot more sense than trying to all the fan theories from years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Ready to move on?
Yes.
All right. So my number 4, Star Wars: The Force Awakens. As you'll see throughout this series, I enjoy the first part of all the trilogies the best. But number 4 for me is The Force Awakens, which it was kind of like same reason that I would rank Jurassic World below the original Jurassic Park.
Mm-hmm.
It tripped me on a lot of nostalgia, and I loved it. But the planet being a freaking Death Star. Come on. Like, really? The whole planet? We couldn't. We had the Death Star. Then we had the second Death Star. Now we got Death Planet. Like, what are you gonna do next? Death Sun?
Yeah.
Star Wars Episode 10.
Yeah,
the Death Sun.
They already did that with the Death Star, Chris. I'm just saying that would be technically
sun. Okay. Fine. But it's small. It's a small star. It's like a dwarf star, right? Now we're talking like a what's the next size up?
You're right. They think it's the size of a moon, and it goes to the size of a planet. I understand, and the size of an actual star. I understand what you're. I was just giving you a hard time.
The comment is that's no moon.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways, the Death Planet's bigger than the Death Star 1 or 2, and then on top of that, we're going to be seeing a red giant. It'll be the red giant. So it'll be the Death Giant.
Yes.
So that tripped me up, and then. How does Rey magically have amazing lightsaber powers? That never made sense to me. How does the other guy?
So this one makes sense because they actually explain it.
Hold on. Let me have my talk.
Okay, fine.
They don't give you any context as to how she has that power, okay, in this movie. So that just tripped me up a little bit. And then her counterpart, the stormtrooper that took off his helmet and decided to join the Rebel Force or whatever, Resistance or whatever you want to call yourselves nowadays. How does he pick up a lightsaber and actually use it? That never made sense to me. I thought lightsabers were reserved for the Jedi.
No, Han Solo picks it up, man.
I know.
So you're wrong. And also, Grievous also has lightsabers. So we already established
there's an explanation for Grievous, okay? But in general, lightsaber skills. How do they have lightsaber skills?
He doesn't. He gets his butt kicked.
Kind of.
He gets chopped up the back, man.
Are you talking about Han Solo or the counterpart?
No, we're talking about Finn.
Finn. Yeah, Finn. Yeah. Anyways, you can tell I don't love this movie, but I did like it.
Yeah.
I've seen it twice, maybe 3. My wife doesn't like Star Wars, okay, so I haven't watched Star Wars in a while.
Mm-hmm. You should come over, man. We can watch it all day long.
I'm there.
Yeah.
See ya.
Yeah.
Anyways, so what I liked about this movie, what they did good, was I really enjoyed the nostalgia boosts from the Death Planet, from kind of like the Rey coming from a Tatooine-like planet, those kinds of things. What I didn't like was, why is Han Solo dead? You guys suck.
Yeah, well,
should have. No, I can't make that joke. That would be a horrible joke. Never mind. I don't know. And then splitting up Han and Leia. Why?
mm-hmm.
Didn't need to do that. Why isn't the Millennium Falcon in Han Solo's possession?
That was stolen.
I don't care. It was dumb. And then you got your cheap R2D2.
Yep. BB-8's not my favorite.
So, I don't know. It was good. And then you got the cheap knockoff Darth Vader.
Mm-hmm.
And then Snoke. Why introduce him as like an Emperor replacement just to kill him off in the next movie?
Hey, you can't compare this movie with... You can't do that.
I'm saying why introduce him in this movie at all?
Yeah, well, I mean, it was great when he first introduced him, and then they ruined it. Last Jedi. The Last Jedi is below for me.
Okay, but that's my complaints. A lot of them stem from Episode 8, but I didn't like them killing off the original characters, the ones that they did. I also just didn't like Death Planet. It's like, why?
Yeah,
why
that's
is
true.
this a thing?
Fair points.
Go ahead.
All right, so 4. This is a proper location for Episode 4. I was confused, but I was going to defend it, and slower on. Anyway, so Episode 4, again, for what I said before, it's not as actiony as the other ones, but it does set up one of the greatest stories ever told, at least through film. And I don't know, it's one of those, I don't know, it's just a classic story of, the guys, fulfilling the legacy of what he thought his father was. He's picking up the lightsaber, which is kind of like Excalibur. He's fighting like at night, and he's fighting off the evil knight, and it's very cool. He has, it's very much like an Arthurian legend. So you have, I can't think of what is the wizard in King Arthur? Merlin. Yeah, so you have Merlin.
How do you not know this?
I do know it, I just couldn't think of it. And then you have like whatever the evil counterpart to Arthur is. So it's very cool.
No,
and also it introduces Darth Vader, which is one of the coolest villains of all time.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Mufasa with a dark suit. It's amazing. But yeah, I really do like this film. I've watched it so many times. But it's not quite as high as on my list as the other ones that are coming up.
Hey, they had X-Wing fighters for the first time, okay?
That's true. Yes, that's true. And I had a replica of that, and that was one of my favorite toys growing up.
Mm-hmm. All right, my controversial opinion here. Number 3, all right, Episode 1. All the bad acting aside in this movie, all the bad writing aside, I love this movie, okay? And the flow of this movie doesn't even make sense. You got the Trade Federation, and the storyline's like, okay, and then like they got this blockade going because some robed figure told them to, and they're working with him to take over all trade in the galaxy, I guess. Take over Naboo. Whatever. But it set up one of the best storylines. The best storyline in this first 3 episodes, in my opinion, is Palpatine. It's supposed to be the Vader movie, but it's not. Like, to me, it's all about how Palpatine manipulated his way to become the Emperor, which is it's crazy. Because he used scare tactics, starting with Episode 1, right? Then he amassed an army to take down all the scary things that people were scared of. And then he took over full control by taking down the Jedi.
Yep, consolidates all the power.
So the trilogy's about Palpatine. It's not about Darth Vader.
No, it really isn't.
It's
in all honesty.
And this movie set it up so well for me, because you think he's the good guy, but he's not. And that's the best character in the whole first 3 movies is Palpatine. And this movie really sold it for me that he was the good guy. And then seeing 2 and 3, I was like, oh my gosh, this guy is not so good.
Yep.
And the pod racing scene, nothing can beat that. And then I love the Naboo starfighter going up and taking down a Trade Federation ship. Just really echoed Episode 4 tactics, taking down the Death Star. Like you were saying, it really reminded me of Luke having that natural ability to drive and fly. So I liked it. And it had Obi-Wan introduced as Ewan McGregor, who is, in my mind, the actual Obi-Wan. But
he's the highlight of that trilogy for sure, at least in my opinion.
Him and Palpatine, best acting in the trilogy.
Yeah,
unlimited power.
Well, I mean, it's the same Palpatine from Episode 6.
It is, but Palpatine is like the best. that is the best transformation in my opinion. It's so good.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, so my number 3 is episode 7. I really enjoyed how this film was shot. It really laid heavy on the nostalgia. It's essentially a complete retread of A New Hope, but I mean I enjoy that. I understand why they did it because they want to recapture that feeling of seeing that first movie for all the original viewers and people, and then the new viewers. There's enough in there to for new people, and also it introduces people to the whole, series. So I understand where they just try to make that jumping off point. We don't need to talk about what happens after this movie, but I really love the new characters that they introduced. I thought Rey was a really strong character, really well written. Same thing with Finn. Same thing with Kylo. I know everyone says he's the emo Darth Vader, but the thing is, I really enjoyed that about him. I enjoyed his little freakouts. I enjoyed him when his face contorts because he has so much pain, and you can see. I feel like Adam Driver really relays the fact that he is a conflicted character really well. And Darth Vader was, really set in his ways until the very end. So like there was no conflict when he was killing everybody, and then like Luke was always the good guy. There was really never that much conflict. So seeing Rey kind of dip into the to the dark side a little bit was cool. Then seeing Kylo, you can see him fighting with the light side the whole time, which is great. Reason why it's not higher on this list is the fact that Rey beats Kylo at the end, which was annoying. However, Kylo did get shot in the stomach with Chewie's crossbow bolt, which moments before was blowing up other people. So the fact that he just absorbed that like a beast, I mean, basically that's why he's so wounded for that fight. And then if you actually read the novelization, they explain it why she was able to beat him in that moment, which I thought they were going to lay in heavily onto in the next movie, which they didn't. So what actually happened was Snoke actually does his little like force manipulation, where he actually uses her as a conduit in that moment, and that's how she beats Kylo. And she also dips into the dark side, and also Kylo isn't expecting that. He's not trying to hurt her in that moment, so he gets taken by surprise. Essentially, that Snoke, and it's Snoke overpowering him, not her. But they don't explain in the movie, so I thought they were going to explain in the next movie. They don't. And then they do kill off Han Solo, which was a traumatic moment.
Oh yeah.
However, Han Solo, the actor Harrison Ford, wanted to die every movie, so that he finally got his wish. And
now you can
the
make
thing
Indiana
is,
Jones 6.
yeah. The thing is, if they had paid that off and there was actually a reason for that going forward, that scene would have been so great, because it really hits you right in that moment. You're not expecting it. You think that Kylo's gonna give up his lightsaber, and then he suddenly ignites it and kills him. So, I mean, within that film, it works really well, in my opinion. So that's why it's number 3 for me.
Okay.
Star Killer is stupid, though.
That is a dumb name.
Yep.
Isn't it? What's the name?
It's
from,
the name of the Force Awakens, the Force Unleashed guy. But I just meant the concept of
No.
Star Killer base.
No, I meant what's the name of the guy from Guardians of the Galaxy? What does he call himself?
Star-Lord.
Star-Lord, that's right. I kept mixing that up in my head. I was like, wait a second, why are you calling out Marvel? This makes sense. So this might be controversial, but the second best Star Wars movie in the entire legacy of Star Wars, for my opinion, is Rogue One. And my wife would disagree with me. She would say it's the best one. But just from even if you didn't watch any other Star Wars movie in the entire franchise, this is just a good movie. This is just a great movie, start to finish. I never felt like you could just pick this up, watch it with no context of Star Wars, and enjoy this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's the real test in my mind, is take away all of your fandom, all your nostalgia, and watch one of these movies, and then if you still think it's a good movie, minus the nostalgia and fandom in your head, then it's a good movie. And this movie passes that test with flying colors, because my wife liked it. She doesn't like Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
And the storyline is based on a throwaway line from another movie, right? And it's not even the right movie. Apparently, because in my head I always thought that line was in episode 4, but it's actually in episode
5. Yeah.
Which is unfortunate because that was going to be my whole argument here. But I liked it because it explains why the Death Star was so easily taken down. I liked the fact that the characters were all personable. They all had their own personalities, and the two guys. 1 second. The forces, I'm the force. The forces with me. It was just, it was comically hilarious. That part. Yeah.
But it was so cool how he walks through all the gunfire and he's able to. Yeah, that's so cool.
The droid was awesome. Mm-hmm. The only throwaway part of this whole movie, in my opinion, was Whitaker's character.
Yeah.
I just didn't feel like he belonged in this movie. He was there, and he was kind of there, and then it's like he just dies. Like, what was the point? Like, they could have just explained that away, like, oh, he took care of her for a little while, and then that was it. They didn't need the second part of that, where they went in and that creepy thing got on that guy's head. And
well, I think that scene made sense because it kind of showed to what level he was willing to go. But I think there's clearly a huge chunk of the movie that they cut out with Whitaker's character.
That's what I mean.
Explaining why he's in there.
But if anybody ever tries to tell me that they don't have a good, strong female character in a Star Wars movie, I will point to this one every single time.
Yeah.
Because this is like one of the best female characters in the Star Wars universe. Literally one of the best. And the payoff, like you said, when the guy, ignite the lightsaber. And then it's like Leia's in the background. It's like, oh my god. And then I had to go watch episode 4 as soon as I saw the end of this movie. Immediately.
It fits in pretty well, actually.
It does. It's a perfect transition between 3 and 4. I don't know how you could do a better movie than this between 3 and 4. And everybody dying at the end is such a tragic but heroic ending to a movie.
Yes.
It was good. It was really good. That's all I got to say. It was one of the best cinematic. Like, you could literally just hand this to anybody that doesn't even watch Star Wars, and they would probably like it.
Yeah, I agree. All right, so for me, my number 2 is Episode 3. I know this is probably really high on the list for most people, but in all honesty, like even with the terrible acting and the terrible plot lines in this original trilogy, or not originally, but the prequel trilogy, having Anakin pit against his master Obi-Wan, and it's like brother against brother essentially, it was just so great, and you feel so much for these characters, and it's really sad, but the fighting and like the way it's shot, like with the lava, it's really cool. And the score is really good, and then you have it juxtaposed with Yoda fighting Palpatine, which is great. And overall, I think this was by far the high point of that trilogy. I thought it was really action-packed from start to finish. Don't shake your head at me. There are a couple low points. One, I thought it was really dumb how he just suddenly becomes Vader. They could have built it up a lot more than that. Also, like the name Darth Vader, he just kind of like Palpatine comes up with on the spot, which is kind of dumb. He's just like, "You are now Darth Vader." It's like, come on, that's dumb. And what happened with the way that Mace Windu goes out is also just, that sucks. Mace Windu is a cool character, and they did him dirty in this film. Padme was also just kind of a worthless character in this, and she dies of a broken heart, which was dumb. They should have had it where Anakin accidentally actually kills her with his lightsaber or something, or even Obi-Wan accidentally kills her, because then they could really cement that hatred that Anakin has. But we get to see Darth Vader again at the very end of this, which was really cool. We get to see them constructing the Death Star at the end, which was awesome. I think this was a good end to that trilogy. Honestly,
I think what they should have done was said that the Force required to have those children should have killed her.
Yeah.
The midi-chlorians that they stole from her body.
Yeah, that would have been interesting. That would have been a cool way of going with it. Or I've rewritten this movie a lot in my head, and I think just having where, he goes and kills all those younglings, which was just so terrible. But it also ends up being one of the coolest scenes, because after that, and after he kills the Trade Federation people on, is it Mustafar? No. What planet is he in at the end? Is it Mustafar?
Mustafar.
he turns at the camera and you can see the yellow Sith eyes, which I thought was one of the coolest scenes that they shot. And it really shows how far he has fallen for this. He wants to save Padme, and he ends up not being able to do it. It's very tragic.
Mm-hmm.
So he gives up everything. He throws everything away for a lie.
Yeah, I had a hard time still believing this love story, even after episode 2, so.
Yeah. Yeah, you just had to go with it.
All right, so, number 1, episode 4. And, I only have to say one thing, all right? Without episode 4, this whole franchise doesn't exist. So,
True.
Without number 4, you don't get Rogue One. Without number 4, you don't get 5 or 6. It's just, and you don't have to see any of the other movies to enjoy this one. All right, there's no setup. There's no. It's all there, start to finish. This movie is a complete movie on its own. There's no cliffhangers. There's no continuation. This movie could have been on its own by just that. That was it. And I think that was the original intention. Was we don't know if we're gonna make any other movies after this, so let's make this one complete, start to finish, make it make sense. And then the only real complaint I have is the same as everybody else, is that end scene where they're walking up, everybody's clapping, and it's like, yeah, but that wouldn't really, this doesn't make any sense. And without all the music and the pomp and circumstance going on there, that scene is kind of weird.
Yeah, and Chewie doesn't get a medal.
You saved the galaxy.
Chewie gets nothing. They don't acknowledge him. It's terrible.
But the lead up to everything, the Force, and he shoots the perfect bullet through the shaft and destroys the Death Star, and Vader gets flung out into space.
It does. That's hilarious.
That is kind of funny. And who knows where the Emperor is at the time that this is going on. Fun little fact, the Emperor in the original movie was actually played by a woman.
Yes.
Going forward, it was always played by the same guy that played Palpatine in the trilogy, which I can't think of his name off the top of my head. But yeah, I mean, this movie is just so great. It's iconic. It's one of the movies. It's a classic movie. And there's so many spoofs of Star Wars that came out after this.
Yes.
Well, not a spoof, but yeah, you do have Starship Troopers, which is not the same. I don't know why I was going to talk about that one. But you also have Spaceballs.
Yes.
Which is great. I think, did they ever make Spaceballs too? I don't know.
I don't think they did.
But just so many things have come out after Star Wars. Star Wars was the lead-in for all these movies to come out.
Yeah, well, it changed popular culture.
It did. You go, Will. Give me your number 1.
All right, so number 1 for me is episode 5. And I think everyone knows why. It's that amazing twist at the end where Darth Vader is Luke's dad. So the thing is, I actually watched this trilogy the way it was meant to be watched. So, the original Star Wars through that first trilogy, and then I watched the prequel trilogy. Even though, I was young when the prequel trilogy was actually coming out, so that would be considered, my Star Wars, if you will. So it blew my freaking mind when you learn that Darth Vader is Luke's dad. And Luke gets his butt kicked in this movie, which I think is so cool because the whole trilogy is such a good hero story because you really build up the Luke character in the first one. He is able to use the Force so effectively. He blows up the Death Star, and in the beginning of the fifth episode, he is training with Yoda, which is really cool. I like that sequence. And also Yoda is such a weird character, but I loved him as a kid and I still love him. And then he shows up Luke, Luke, has no confidence. He can't lift the TIE fighter out of the X-Wing out of the swamp. And Yoda just shows him up and just goes whoop and just drops him down. Yeah, almost no effort. It's great. And then so he goes to that training sequence, and you think that he says he's got to go save his friends, and there's a whole backstabbing scene with Lando Calrissian, which again that was also another twist I wasn't expecting at the time. You get to see a really cool Force power where Darth Vader stops the laser bolts with his hand, which you see again with Kylo Ren in Episode 7. And then you have that one of the coolest fight scenes ever where Luke is fighting Darth Vader, and Darth Vader just mops the floor with him, and that's not supposed to happen. Luke's the hero. Luke can't lose, and then at the end he does. He gets his hand chopped off, and he falls down a shaft.
Yep.
So again,
Yep.
you get delivered this crazy news that, the ultimate bad guy of all time is actually the hero's dad, which, at the time was novel. Like now that gets repeated all the time.
Oh, yeah.
But at the time, that was a big deal. And then he loses the fight. So that's a dark movie. But I thought it took a lot of risks, and I think it's really done start to finish. There was no like Ewok scene. There was no there was no weird love triangle scene or triangle. There was no weird love angle. He does kiss his sister, which is unfortunate. But and the one thing is that his face does change. Do you know why his face looks so different between episode 4 and 5?
He grew up?
No. So he actually had a car wreck, and he had plastic surgery on his face.
What?
So although George Lucas denies it, that's the whole reason for that Wampa scene where he fights the Yeti. And he cuts his face because they're trying to cover up the fact that his face is completely different from episode 4 and 5. Between 4 and 5. Yeah. Anyway, I love that movie. If I had to rewatch one of those movies and the only one I was allowed to rewatch, I would watch that one.
For me, before Rogue One.
Well, obviously, I see your ranking, man. Yeah. Anyway, that's it.
All right.
Purely subjective.
Now that we've made a 45-minute video again, similar to the Halo rankings.
Yes.
Make sure you share this video on PhotoBucket and
put it on Pinterest.
Pinterest and Yelp. Give us a Yelp review.
Mm-hmm.
Please like this video. Share it on your social media. Comment down below and subscribe to the podcast. If you've survived 46 minutes of us talking, 47 now, you obviously can survive a couple more minutes and watch a couple more videos. So subscribe.
Yes.
As always, I'm Chris.
And I'm Will.
And we will see you
on the next CHRILLCAST.